Always a pleasure to be back. I feel already like we're old friends here. We've gone through so much together in the last 3 classes. I can see everybody smiling, much bigger smiles, but sitting next to... They used to sit, the men on this side, the women on that side. Now they're sitting on the couch together. The spouses are together. That's good. That's
sometimes we're not sitting with other people's wives.
Baruch Hashem. It's
Maybe that's less of 8, you know.
All good signs. Baruch Hashem. I saw a very touching story recently about a husband and a wife, Harry and Sarah, that were married for about 20 years already. And Sarah was now about 40, 45 years old, and she said to her husband one day, she said, Harry, she said, I can't believe how old I'm getting. He said, what's the matter? She said, look at me already. I'm only 40, 45 years old, but already I'm getting so wrinkly. My body is getting old. I feel so old already. By the way, women, that's a very bad thing to tell your husbands. You never complain to your husbands you feel old, you're wrinkly, you don't look like you did 20 years ago. You're always even more beautiful than you were when you first got married. But this woman made a mistake. And she's telling her husband she feels so old, and she said, look at my skin is getting so wrinkly. So her husband looked at her, he says, my dear wife, don't worry, you're not so old. There's still something about you that works so good, just like it was when we first got married. She said, really, Harry? What is it? No, it's okay, he said. No, please tell me, what is it? What do you see so redeeming in me? What is so special? No, it's okay. Please tell me, what do you love about me so much? What is that thing that's still just like it was when we first got married? He said, do you really want to know? She said, yes, please. He said, I see that your eyesight hasn't changed at all. The class tonight is entitled Positive Communication. Learning how a husband and a wife need to speak to each other in the proper way. Some of what we're going to discuss, I believe we touched upon in the last class, and maybe the one before that. But it never hurts to review a little bit. And this is a class that, if we'll learn the message properly, and we'll digest the lessons and listen to the words, and even if we don't understand, we have to talk about it. But positive communication, the way that we interact with each other and communicate with one another, is one of the greatest foundations for a happy and a peaceful marriage. There's a very famous verse written in Mishlei in the book of Proverbs that says the following: Moves v'chayim, death and life, biyad haloshen, is in the hands of the mouth. Death and life is in the hands of the mouth. You have a very powerful weapon right over here. It's called a mouth. And you can use that mouth to do whatever you would like to accomplish with it. You can make it into an arsenal of weaponry, and you can shoot out bullets and javelins and spears and fire, and you could literally destroy a person with your mouth. Or you could learn how to develop your your speaking abilities, and you can say words of comfort, of kindness, of understanding, of sweetness, of sincerity, of quietness, of positive reinforcement, and you can build a person up, and you can make them into the happiest person around. Maves v'chayim, death and life, is in the hands of the tongue. And the Alshich, who is one of the great commentators on the Torah, he asks the following question: why does it say this verse in the negative first? Death and life is in the hands of the tongue. Wouldn't it be nicer to say that life and death is in the hands of the tongue? Why are you focusing on the negative? The Jewish people are optimistic, we're upbeat, we're always looking for the good. And yet this verse tells us death and then life is something that you have the ability within your tongue. And he says the following answer. And that is because, unfortunately, it's much easier, much more convenient. It's almost much more natural to say the negative words out of one's mouth than to say the positive words that are going to create chayim, life. It's simpler not to control my actions. It's easier not to be aware that the words that I'm saying are hurtful and inflicting pain in my spouse. And therefore I'll just rattle off whatever I'd like to say. Moves v'chayim, death, comes so easy. But life is something that a person is going to have to develop and work on to make sure that the words that they are saying to their spouse are positive, optimistic, sensitive, supportive, gentle words which are going to make your spouse understand that he or she is beholden in your eyes. But it's not easy at all. As we all know, we have stressful lives. We work all day long. We have pressures from the office. We're trying to pay the bills at the end of the month, and the numbers never just seem to come up in the right way. Our kids are driving us crazy. Summer vacation is one of the worst times of the year for every parent. The kids are around all day long. This one wants to go to camp. This one doesn't want to go to camp. She went to camp. Now she hates camp. She has to stay home for 3 days. This one is sick, but they're not really sick. This one's playing in the yard. They get all dirty. They come inside. We know how it is. Everyone is stressed out in the summertime. Until you go on the vacation. You spend 3 months planning the vacation, saving all the money, making all the plans, all the reservations. You go to the hotel, and everything is such what we call in Hebrew a balagan. It's so crazy. You come back after a week in Hawaii, you need a vacation from the vacation. So we know how it is. It's not easy. And who gets the brunt of our stress? Who's the first one in our lives that has to take the lashing and the moves and the hateful, spiteful words that are going to come out of our mouth? It's not the dog. The dog gets much better treatment than our spouses do. I was just driving down the street the other day, and my kid said, "Tati, Daddy, look, there's a car. There's a man driving the car. He's got a dog that's so big it looks like a bear. Is sitting in the front seat. There's another one sticking his head up in the back seat, and his wife is shoved in the corner in the back seat." Yeah? The dogs in Los Angeles get much better treatment than the spouses do. So the first person who's going to get a piece of our mind when we come home, stressed out beyond belief, is of course our spouse. Because they can handle it, can't they? They knew what I was like before they got married. They knew that I'm tough. They knew that I say what's on my mind. They knew that I walk the walk, I talk the talk. They knew that's who I am. So why should it surprise them when I say something not nice? Why is she running into the bedroom and crying? I don't understand. Again, why is my husband looking at me with that face that looks like his head is going to explode right now? What did I say that was so terrible? Why? Because I criticized him again? Because I complained to him again? Because I picked on his inconsistencies again? Says the Alshich, Moves v'chaim, death and life is in the hands of one's mouth. And if we don't learn how to use our mouths properly, we will be shooting out bullets left and right, and our spouses are going to feel the pain, and we are going to suffer as a result in our marriages because we are not making our marriages better or happier. On the other hand, unfortunately, we are hurting and in devastating ways the self-confidence and the feelings and the emotions of our spouses. And therefore, we have to learn how to infuse our mouths with chayim, with life, and in that way, we will be able to envelop our homes in this aura of peacefulness and kindness, sensitivity, and the giving, caring feelings one to the other. So where do we start? Not so easy, especially if a person is used to saying nasty things to their spouse. And again, everybody has different boundaries of what they consider to be nasty. They have all different ideas of what's appropriate, what's inappropriate, what's the right thing to say, not the right thing to say. And the longer that a person is married to somebody, the more relaxed and comfortable they get, flashing their true colors in the way that they talk. And therefore, if we want to find places where we can work in the positive, let's try to identify those tonight. So the first way of positive speech, which is easier said than done, is that a person must learn how to praise, how to compliment, how to give positive reinforcement, how a person can boost up their spouse's self-esteem and their confidence by merely giving them words of kindness and encouragement. Again, we're not used to this. We're not used to, hey, wow, honey, you look so great today. Wow, the house looks so nice. It's not as messy as it usually is. Wow. Wow, dear, did you have a good day at work? No, what happened? Oh, my boss, instead of saying again, don't say those words, again. He got mad at you again. Don't say those words. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sure tomorrow's going to be a better day. I'm sure there'll be a better day for you tomorrow. When we get used to saying things in a positive way and taking the focus off the negative ways, it elevates the entire level of communication between a husband and a wife. And even if one is in the negative route, you will be shocked and surprised that if you keep doing things positively, kindly, nicely, reinforcing, saying good things, you'll be surprised that it'll be contagious after a while. It will rub off on the other person, and they themselves will begin to say things that are nice. There's a book that we have in my house for the children. It's about a child who was always screaming and always yelling. Always. And this boy never understood that when you scream and you yell, you don't get what you want. Men, do you understand that? When you scream and you yell, you do not get what you want. You get a very frightened and fragile wife. You get a woman who is frightened of you when you come into the house. And you give a woman that if she's not strong enough, she'll just be subservient and she'll just move out of your way and you can have whatever you want because she doesn't want to deal with it. But
Are you thinking about Jewish?
I was just going to say, but you're all... I was just going to say, but you're married to Russian women, so this doesn't apply to you.
Oh, it works with Israelis?
The most important message that you can give over to your spouse is that in the words that you're saying, they should know and they should feel that you love and you care about them. And that means, as one of the very famous commentators says, it should be more difficult for a person to let one word leave his lips than it is to spend maybe thousands and thousands of dollars. Could you imagine? If before every time you would open up your big mouth, you would stop for a second and you would think, okay, is this the right thing to say? Or is this the wrong thing to say? Okay, I'm about to scream right now. Is screaming at my husband the right thing? Or is it the wrong thing? It takes enormous amount of inner strength to stop yourself from letting out that shriek, because you know that when you shriek, he screams. When he screams, you shriek. When he gets angry, the hair starts standing on his head. When you do, your face turns red. The kids are in the other room listening with their ear on the door, trying to find out who's going to win this battle tonight. Don't. Just be positive. And that means learning to control one's mouth. The Vilna Gaon says, a person cannot imagine or believe how much reward is waiting for them in the world to come if they just close their mouths and keep quiet under circumstances where they should not say a word. But it's not only in the world to come. You benefit in this world as well. A person who knows how to keep his mouth closed is able to make the most beautiful atmosphere in his house. There was a husband and a wife who were having some very interesting marital issues. The woman, unfortunately, she went a little bit delirious at a certain point in her life, and she started saying crazy things. And okay, it was embarrassing for her, it was embarrassing for the family, but the most embarrassing part of all was that she would say things to her husband totally inappropriate and rude. She would put him down in public. She wasn't even Russian. She would put him down in public, and she would say all these things that were embarrassing for this man. And he didn't know what to do anymore. He was a good fellow soul. He tried to work on his character and control himself, and he didn't want to respond negatively to his wife. He realized she's unfortunate, there's something wrong. But it was getting very hard. Day after day, she would embarrass him in public. She would say things, she would berate him. And he wanted to stand up for himself. So he went to one of his friends, who's a rabbi, Rabbi Brizak, and he asked his friend, what am I supposed to do? My wife is driving me crazy. And she puts me down. And she embarrasses me in public, in front of the children, everything. You don't know what's going on. I want to respond to her. I don't know what to do. So the rabbi told him the following. I'm not a prophet. I can't tell you exactly what to do. But I know one thing. You never lose out from keeping your mouth closed. You never lose out. I know it's not going to be easy. I know it's going to be hard. And you have to take the embarrassment and the shame that she dishes out to you. But Nebuch, unfortunately, that's where she's holding. But you'll never lose out from keeping your mouth closed. About 8 or 9 months later, this man came back to his friend, Rabbi Brizak, and he told him, Rabbi, I have to tell you an amazing story. When I left you 9 months ago and you told me that you'll never lose out for keeping your mouth closed, I accepted upon myself, that's what I'm going to do, and I'm telling you, you don't know how hard it has been the last 9 months. She embarrasses me, she says things off-colored, she does things which are totally inappropriate, and every time that I have an urge to talk back, keep my mouth closed. Just last night, I was in one room in the house, in the living room, and I hear the kids playing in the playroom, and they're talking, and they start asking themselves the famous question that children ask, who do you want to be like when you grow up? What do you want to be when you grow up? A fireman, policeman, doctor, lawyer, what do you want to be? So my oldest son said, when I grow up, I want to be just like Tati, just like my father. Why? He said, because do you see how mommy talks to Tati? How mommy talks to her father and embarrasses him and puts him down even in public? And our father is so strong, he doesn't say a word. When I grow up, I want to be just like my father. If a person will control their instincts, control their mouths, control their anger, control their tension and their frustration. There was a rabbi in Israel who was a teacher of Shalom Bayis, of marital harmony classes just like this. People would come to him from all over that he would counsel them. And he was known as an expert. He helped many, many couples in their marriages to achieve marital harmony. And he found a very odd thing. He would come home every day after his teaching and his work, what he was doing, and he found that he was arguing with his wife. He was fighting with her. Came into the house, he was cranky, he was in a bad mood. He would say things that were nice, and his wife's like, what's going on over here? You're the teacher of Shalom Bayis. You make other people happy marriage. What are you doing over here? He realized something very simple. He started reviewing the schedule of his day, and he realized that from lunchtime until he came home was about 7 hours. And he didn't eat anything from lunch until dinner was served at night. And he was so hungry, everybody knows, we're pretty grouchy when we're hungry. He was so hungry he became grouchy, and when he became grouchy, he lost control of his mouth, and he said things to his wife that he wished that he would not have said. So what did he start doing? He started eating a snack on the way home. And that way he was satisfied, and when he walked in the house, he was filled up and relaxed, and he learned how to control himself. Whatever it takes. You need to go to the spa. You need a manicure, you need a pedicure today so you'll be calm when you come home. You need to go blow off some steam at the gym and do that Stairmaster, pump some iron a little bit before you walk into the house. Whatever you need to do to make yourself in the best condition before you walk in, a person, if they want marital harmony, they should make sure that they try to take care of that. Number 2, and this is a very big concept we find throughout the entirety of the Torah and all of the teachings of our sages. There's something called Hakaras HaTov, which means gratitude. A person must live a life of being grateful. How does your spouse know that you are grateful for what they've done? You say the words, thank you. Thank you for making dinner tonight, my dear wife. Or thank you for making dinner tonight, my dear husband. Thank you for taking out the trash. I know that it's not easy for you because you haven't done it in the last 6 years since we moved into this house. Thank you very much for taking it out. You know, I wanted to go out with my friends and I wasn't sure if I could leave you alone with the kids, and you took such amazing care of them. Thank you for taking care of the children. I really appreciate it. Why do we do things for our spouse? Because we're martyrs? Because we figure that when we stood under the chuppah and we signed off for the rest of our lives, we are an indentured servant to our husband or to our wife? That's not why we do things. We do things for our spouse because we want to make them happy. I take her to a nice meal on a weeknight that we celebrate, just a private date, the two of us, because I want my wife to know how much I love her and I care about her. I went out of my way to 3 different stores, Russian specialty stores where you can only buy that thing, whatever it's called, to make him his favorite dish, just like the way Mama used to make it in the old country. Why is she doing that? Because she likes schlepping all around downtown to find that store that's always right in the corner that you can't find? She did it because she wants to show her husband how much she loves him and she cares about him. So how do you know if your spouse is pleased with your efforts? How do you know that your spouse appreciates what you've done for them? How do you know that they even take notice of the little things that you are doing for them in the house and outside of the house? Only one way. If you acknowledge that and you say, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me that you went out of your way to do this. Then your spouse will know that you mean it. There's a beautiful story of a doctor who was one of the head doctors in Boston. I think that the hospital there in Boston is, know who's the doctor over here? No one's a doctor? Okay, anyway, there's a big hospital in Boston. And one of the head doctors, what happened to be a religious Jew by the name of Dr. Goldberg or something. And this doctor was in the ER, in the emergency room, and he was overseeing everything. And as he was working one day, there's a siren that goes off, and it's called Code Blue. Code Blue means somebody is dying in the hospital at this very second. And they announce Code Blue in the dining hall. And this doctor rushes out of the emergency room, and he runs down to the dining hall, and he sees a group of doctors and nurses hovering around someone who's on the floor. And he sees them pumping away on the heart. And they walk up, they stand up, and they say, "We tried. There's nothing we can do. The lady has died." And this doctor walks over, and he sees the lady, and he feels her hand, her pulse, very faint, something is still there. And he says, "No, get the defibrillator, come, let's do it one more time." And they get the machine, once, nothing, twice, nothing, 3 times, beep, beep. Suddenly the heart back comes. And the heart rate gets stronger, and the woman comes back to life. And the doctor tells the other nurses and doctors, "Take her to the room. This is what you treat her. These are the medications you give her. She's going to be okay." And this lady's name was Mrs. Gilmore. Later in the day, as he's getting ready to leave the hospital to go home to his wife and his children, he says, "You know what? Let me stop in at Mrs. Gilmore's room and see how she's doing. Let's just make sure that everything is okay." He walks into the room, and lo and behold, the woman is actually sitting up in her hospital bed, eyes open, completely alert and aware. And as the doctor walks into the room, her husband jumps out of the seat and he says, "That's the one! That's the one who saved your life!" And at that moment, this woman begins crying uncontrollable tears. And when she finally resumes she gets hold of herself, she says to this doctor, says, "Doctor, what am I supposed to say? Thank you?" Thank you is what you say to someone when they hold the door open for you. Thank you is what you say to the person at the store when they ring you out and they pack up all your bags. You say thank you. Thank you is for the person when you go to the restaurant and they serve you your meal. You say to the waiter, you say thank you. But doctor, you gave me back my entire life. Thank you is merely not enough. For the rest of my life, I tell you, doctor, when I'm out there in the nature enjoying a beautiful sunrise or a sunset, I will say, "Thank you, doctor, for saving my life." When I'm going to go home from the hospital and my grandchildren will come to visit me and they'll be sitting on my lap, I'll say, "Thank you, doctor, for saving my life." When I'm able to take a walk in the park next to my husband and enjoy some time alone together, I will say, "Thank you, doctor, for saving my life." For the rest of my life, I'm going to thank you. This doctor was so touched by the woman's words. He walked out of the hospital and the doors opened automatically. And as he walked out, he stopped and he said, "Hashem, thank you. Thank you is what you say for someone when they open the door for you. Thank you is what you say to the waiter when he delivers your meal. Thank you is what you say to the person who makes room for you on the bus. But for some being in this world that gives me everything that I have in my life, thank you is merely not enough. Every single moment with everything that I go through, I'm going to try to express my gratitude and my thanks to you." Our spouses are not God. They would like us to think that they are. However, they are giving us so much of their energy, so much of their time, so much of their love, so much of their support. Thank you. Thank you is not enough. It has to be thank you on a daily basis for the smallest things that you notice. She picked up the dry cleaner so you didn't have to go. Thank you for saving me the time. He took you out, even though it was fast food, it wasn't your favorite restaurant, but he thought about you. He didn't want you to slave away in the kitchen like you normally do, and he took you out. Thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now for some of us, it's a very unnatural thing. We're not used to saying thank you. We're not used to complimenting our spouse for the nice things that they do. And it will seem very unnatural at first, almost contrived. Your spouse will think, this guy must be kidding me. He never said thank you before. She never appreciates what I do. Don't stop. Just keep saying thank you. Show your appreciation. Eventually, it's going to become something that's natural. And trust me, your spouse will never, ever reject a thank you that you are giving her. Positive comments, compliments, and thank yous are something that everybody needs. And the more that you can give them, the better off you're going to be in your marriage. One of the other ideas, and again, we touched on this already, but this is the idea of complimenting your spouse. Complimenting your spouse means that you recognize the good things that they do in their life. Doesn't even have to be for you. Your spouse could have done something wonderful for somebody else, and they're a humble person and they didn't tell you about it. And somebody else called you to tell you, wow, your wife, she's unbelievable. You don't even know what she did for me. Compliment her. Let her know that. Your husband does something in the house for you, just between the two of you, for the kids, in his work, whatever it is. Learn how to say compliments. I cannot tell you how many women have spoken to me over the years and told me the worst thing that happens in their marriage is their husbands never show them an ounce of appreciation. Well, how do you know they don't appreciate you? Because they never tell me. How do you know it? Because they never say anything. I do things, they never point it out. I do something just for him, he never says thank you. I do this whole elaborate thing in the house. Our sages tell us that if you come home one day and your wife moved the picture from that wall to the other wall, you are obligated to go over to your wife and say, wow, you know what? The picture looks so much better on that wall. Good choice. Excellent. It's called a compliment. That's called noticing. Your wife is home all day long. Who knows what she's doing with herself? At least she's moving pictures. So you have to notice that. And you have to compliment her and you have to show her that she's valuable and you value in her the things that she does in her life. Now, let's remember. Okay, we have to remember this very carefully. We spoke about it a little, but we want to say it in a better way right now. Our mouths are really in one person's hands and one person's hands only. They are in your hands. There's a concept that we have called bechira, called free will. You have choices that you are always making in your lives. You could choose to say something nice, or you could choose to say something wrong. You can choose to make your wife or your husband happy, or you can choose to make them sad and upset and angry. Nobody makes you say anything that you don't decide to say on your own. So if your wife is lacing into you, and she's getting into there, and she's telling you all these things that are really bothering her, you don't have to respond. You don't have to talk back. You don't have to stoop down to her level of the nasty language that's going on between the two of you. Again, nasty language doesn't mean words that we don't want to say inside of this room. Nasty language means words that are hurtful, that are spiteful, that inflict pain inside of the other person. And if we learn how to control the mouths that we are given, and we elevate them to mouths of chayim, of life, it's always interesting to be standing here to see which spouse is making the eyes at her husband right now. Yeah, hear what he's saying. Listen to what he's saying. Yeah, listen carefully what he's saying. Don't worry, the husbands are looking at the wives also right now. Listen what we're saying. You have control. And if at the end of the day, your wife, after another year of marriage and another year of marriage and another year of marriage, continues to feel the same feelings in her heart, he's so mean to me. Why does he talk like that to me? Why didn't he say thank you? Why doesn't he care about me? Then you're doing something wrong. Nobody else has taught you. Nobody else is in control of that. Only you are. And women, if after 1 year or 5 years or 10 years or 20 years of marriage, your husband keeps asking, what was I thinking when I stood underneath the chavah? She only screamed 3 times when we were dating. Boy, she was in good self-control at those when she was younger. Why is she screaming at me all the time? Why does she always put me down? Even when I try to do things, why does she have to pull out the old list of things from 20 years ago that I used to do and I tried to correct them now? Why does she do that to me? Then women, you're doing something wrong. You're causing your husband, based upon your words, to look down on you, not to raise you up on the pedestal that you deserve to be placed upon. And therefore we must use our free will to be in control of the most lethal weapon that any of us has, which is called the mouth, death or life. We'd much rather have life be the greatest amount, and death, you'll save that for the situations that require such a reaction, which is never. We never want to infuse the words of death and hate into our spouse. There's a fascinating story. Fascinating. Husband and a wife were married for many years, and the wife could no longer take her husband's behavior. What was his behavior? He was always criticizing and putting down and being negative to his wife. She made dinner, it's never good enough. She cleaned the house, it's still messy. She gets all dressed up, why'd you wear that dress? Whatever she did, no matter what she did, no matter how she did it, always a negative comment out of the husband's mouth. And she tried telling him and teaching him. She even told him, say these words to me. Don't say these words. Use this word, don't use that word. Nothing at all helped. She got to the point where after many years, she said, I can't take this anymore. I'm finished. She went to her rabbi, who she'd spoken to many times over the years about her relationship. And she said, that's it. It's 15 years, 20 years. I've had enough of this guy. He's driving me crazy. I tried. I want out of this marriage. So the rabbi says, are you willing to try one last thing before you decide to walk away for good? She said, one thing, and that's it. I can't take it anymore. He said, go to the hardware store and buy yourself a 2x4. The Americans never laughed. The Russians already started imagining. Go buy yourself a 2x4, a hammer, and a box of nails. And the next time that your husband, and he says, go put it in a safe place that's hidden where nobody can see it. And the next time that your husband says something negative, instead of getting angry with him, take it out on this board. Take a nail and the hammer and bang it into the board and get out your anger and your frustration. And then go back to your husband and see if it makes a difference. So she said, okay. The rabbi says, why not? She goes to the hardware store. She buys the 2x4, the nails and the hammer. She takes it home. She puts it away on the top shelf in her closet. And she waits to see what's going to happen. She makes dinner that night. She's sitting there waiting for her husband. He walks into the door. Fish again? She runs into the bedroom. She pulls out the hammer and the nails. Bang, 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 bang. And she walks back into the kitchen. And the husband says, "What was that?" "Oh, nothing, dear." And she serves the fish. At the end of the meal, she's waiting for a thank you. And the husband says, "Oh, sorry, gotta go. The ball game is on." And he goes to the couch and he sits down. Strike number 2. She goes back into her room, takes the nail, bang, bang, bang. And it goes on like this for 1 week. And the husband is such a clueless guy. He doesn't understand what's going on. Finally, the end of the week, after he's heard a lot of banging going on in the house, when his wife runs away for like the 100th time, and she comes back, he says, "What's all that banging and that noise about?" She said, "Do you really want to know?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Well, I'll tell you the truth. I went to the rabbi last week, and I told him, after all of these years of you being mean and cruel and negative and spiteful and always putting me down, I can't take this marriage anymore. And I told him I want out. But he said, try one more thing." So he said, "Go buy a 2x4 and the nails and the hammer, and instead of getting angry at you when you let me down, I should bang it into this piece of wood." So the husband laughs. He thinks that's very cute. And he says, "Really? Do I really insult you so much? You're banging away so much? Are there so many nails in that wood? I'm sure there can't be that many nails in the wood." She says, "Would you like to see?" He says, "Yeah, actually I would like to see. I can't even believe that I have so many nails in that wood." She runs back to the closet and she pulls out the 2x4 and she shows it to her husband. It is covered in nails. And the husband's face drops. And he said, "Are you serious? That's how I talk to you? That's how I make you feel? So bad? I can't believe it." And his wife said, "Yes, that's how bad it is." So he said, "Can I make it up to you?" She said, "You don't know how hurt I am." He said, "How about this? How about from now on, I'm going to say nice things to you. And I'm going to compliment you. And I'm going to say thank you to you. But every time that I do something good, I want you to take out one of the nails. And give me a week to see if I can get all of the nails removed from this wood." And the wife says, "Okay, I'm willing to try." Sure enough, the husband, true to his word, he doesn't stop complimenting his wife. "Wow, fish again? My favorite." And throughout the entire week, he's looking and looking and looking for opportunities that he can compliment his wife. And every time that he does, she runs into the bedroom, she pulls another nail out of the wood. At the end of a week, he says, "My dear wife, I tried very hard. Let me see what the wood looks like." She runs back to the closet. She brings the 2x4 of wood. And lo and behold, there's not a single nail in the wood. And the husband says, "You see, I could do it. I could be nice. I could be grateful. I could be kind. I could build you up. I could be positive. You see, look, there's no more nails anymore in the wood." And then she holds up the piece of wood. She says, "Yes, the nails are gone, but the holes are still there." A person has to realize that when we talk negatively to our spouses, even when we try to patch it up afterwards, we beg and we plead and we're sorry, we'll never do it again, please, not the couch, don't make me sleep on the couch again. And we come with the chocolates, and we come with the flowers, and we come with the jewelry, and we come with the vacation and the new car, whatever we try to do to cover up all the mistakes that we made with the way that we talk. We have to remember the holes that we pierced in our spouse, those are always going to be there. May Hashem, the Almighty, give us the inner strength to recognize the tremendous power that we have inside of our mouths. That if we so will decide to be in control, we will learn the positive ways of communication, which is complimenting, which is showing our appreciation, saying thank you, pointing out the good things that are there inside of your spouse. When was the last time that you told your spouse all of the beautiful traits that you see inside of them? When was the last time in a quiet moment, the kids are sleeping, you put your phone away and you just sit there, the two of you, staring into each other's eyes across the table, and you give the list of all of the wonderful things that you see inside of your spouse? When was the last time? Let's get used to saying things that are positive and ridding ourselves of the negativity. When we do that, our mouths become mouthpieces of Chaim, of life. Our marriages are infused with life and with goodness. And in that way, we are privileged to be from the smaller congregation of people in this world that are blessed with true marital harmony. Be careful with what you say. Every word, there's a very scary midrash, a very scary statement of the sages. And it says the following, that there is an accounting in the heavens of every single word that we are saying. And each person is given a certain amount of words to say in their life. And the moment that those words are used up, game over, that's the end of a person's life. Now, if we waste those precious words with negativity and hostility and hateful things that we say, so then we are literally taking away from the years of our lives here in this world. You're all very young. You all have a lot to accomplish still. You have many, many more simchas, many more joyful occasions to share together in your lives. You want to make sure that you're able to appreciate that and do that together in good health for many years to come. How can we do it? By guarding our mouths. Like it says, the person who desires life guards his tongue from speaking badly. Badly doesn't only mean gossip, but it also means speaking badly to our spouses. In those merits, if we work on it, and again, sometimes it takes superhuman strength, but if we work on it in the right way, we will be people who have increased the life in ourselves, in our spouses, and we bring the beautiful life of goodness and of peace into our marriages together. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.